everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing books that made me cry. And I know lots of people have been doing this video because they've been getting packages about Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I'm not one of those people. I've just been seeing lots of people around the booktubes doing videos about this, and it got me inspired to do my own video. And before I get into it, I just wanted to explain a little bit about my cryingness, because I'm not really a book crier, at least I wasn't. It took me a really long time to actually end up crying at a book, and I don't really cry a lot of the time. I might tear up or something like that, but over the, I think, past year, I've been definitely getting way more emotional when I read, and I think that just comes with reading so many things and getting invested in the story. So yeah, I have a few books here that I remember vividly crying at. There might have been some more that I just like teared up at or something, but I vividly remember crying at these books. And so yeah, I'm just going to be sharing with you those books that made me cry. So let's just get into the video. So like I said, I was not a book crier for the longest time until this book. And that book was Champion by Marie Lu. This is the third and final book in the Legend trilogy, and I remember vividly, I'm not going to spoil it, but if you've read this trilogy and you know what happens at the end of this book, it completely destroyed me. It still destroys me. I remember vividly finishing it, going into complete denial, and then just breaking down, and I remember going into the kitchen and just hugging my mom and physically sobbing. This was a tragic event because my mom was really shocked because, like I said, I don't normally cry at books, and she thought, like, you know, something really bad had happened or something. But no, this book made me cry, and it was my first book that I ever truly lost it on, and it deserves it because the ending of this book was an experience, and it made me really sad. If you don't know what I'm talking about, read the trilogy. It's a wonderful trilogy. This end book, oh my gosh. The next book I have to mention is The Book Thief. Book I have to mention is The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. I think everyone cries at this book. If you don't cry at this book, then there's something wrong with you, in my opinion. Now, there's a little story that goes along with this. I actually saw the movie before I read this book. I had the book, but it was way back whenever the movie came out, and I decided to see the movie before I read the book, and the movie completely destroyed me, right? And then I thought that this book wouldn't be so bad because I knew what happened at the end of this book, but it still did. I remember just losing it at the end of this book, and so it was really sad. If you don't know this book, you should know what it's about. World War II stuff. It's very sad. So yeah, this is another one that I cried at. Now on to a book that I actually cried at because I was overwhelmingly overjoyed, and that was Ensnared by A.G. Howard. I try to talk about this trilogy as much as I can on my channel. This is the third and final book in the Splintered trilogy, and I just remember sitting in my mom's bed, going page after page after page, updating my Goodreads with all these quotes, and just losing my shit. They weren't sad tears, they were happy, oh my god tears, because this trilogy ends beautifully. I love the main character Morpheus, and I just kept wanting to quote all these like things that he was saying because they were glorious. And this book just made me cry because I was just so happy, and also because I just love these characters so much, and seeing them interact in a final way was just very beautiful. And also, this trilogy was coming to an end, so I was also emotional because of that. But most of my tears were happy, fangirling tears, and let me tell you, there were a lot of them. Oh wow, this is like really shiny. Next up is In the Afterlight by Alexandra Bracken. This is also the third and final book in the Darkest Minds trilogy, I think. I feel like every single one of these books is a final book in a series. But you know, final books are emotional, man. But okay, this is probably the book that I maybe cried the most at out of all of these, which is a lot because a lot of these books were really sad. But this book wasn't necessarily sad. I mean, I was really sad that it was over because I just loved these characters with my entire being. And I remember crying when it was over, but the thing that sticks in my memory the most is that I continued to cry. I remember being at school and crying the day after I finished this book because I felt like my best friends were ripped away from me. And it was very emotional. I just didn't want to say goodbye to these characters, and even when I think about this final book, I get a knot in my stomach, and I just don't want to say goodbye to them. I wish there was like 15 bajillion more books in this series because I love these characters so much. And like I said, I was crying all the time. Like the entire week after I finished this book, I was a mess. So yeah, this book, man. Next up is another case of happy tears, and that is Ignite Me by Tahira Mafi, which is once again the third and final book in the Shatter Me trilogy. And I read this in I think I read this book in 6 hours. It's not very big, but I remember going down to Barnes & Noble because I finished the second book and really wanting to pick this book up. Then let's just take a moment to appreciate this cover because I just like caught it in my viewfinder, and that cover is gorgeous. I mean, let's just take a moment. Whew, it's really pretty. So this book was beautiful, and I was fangirling the entire time, and I remember crying and running around my desk where like I do my schoolwork. Like I was reading it and then I have to put it down, and like I had to speed walk around my desk and cry because of how much I was fangirling about this book. This book was beautiful. Warner, oh my gosh, read this trilogy if you haven't, because oh my gosh. And I haven't really been giving a lot of like summaries of these books because they're all like last books in the series, and so yeah, most of these are also really popular series, but I would recommend all of these if you guys want to go check them out on Goodreads or wherever you want to check them out. Next up is Winter by Marissa Meyer, and also I'm going to mention Stars Above, also by Marissa Meyer. This is the fourth and final book in the Lunar Chronicles, and this is the bind-up of novellas. So this one I cried at for the same reason I cried about most of the final books in these series, but I just loved all the characters. I loved how this ended. I didn't want it to end, and I just love all these characters so much. I love Kai and Cinder. Kai and Cinder are my favorite people from this entire series, and it was just so beautiful. And everything was coming together, and I had to say goodbye to all these characters, and it just broke my heart. So I remember crying at this one for sure. I thought it was really, really great. A wonderful conclusion. And then that leads me to Stars Above, and particularly the last novella, which is the epilogue, which takes place after winter. And if you've read that epilogue, you've probably cried because it's beautiful. I mean, it's not sad. It's just so wonderful that I was like physically gasping when I was reading it. Like I was trying to read out all these quotes to my mom, and I was like, it's so cute, I can't. So yeah, this was another case of happy tears, but yeah, and this was the final farewell to all these characters, so it brought back all the memories from winter that I didn't want to let go of these characters. And the final book that made me cry was A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. This is a classic, and the ending of this book was just depressing as hell. If you've not read this book, highly recommend it. It's like wonderful. It's my favorite classic of all time. If you have read it, you know what happens at the end, and it's sad. And the thing that happens to that character, he's my favorite character, and I could not deal with what happened to him at the end of this book. But it was also really great too. I mean, I was crying because I was sad, but I was also crying because of how beautiful and wonderful the end of this book was. But I was pretty upset with the outcome, but I think that's one of the reasons why I love this book so much. I thought it was just so bittersweet, and yeah, so this one made me cry. Not like as much as the other ones, but I remember crying a bit at this one. So there you have it. Those are all the books, or most of the books that made me cry, or at least a lot of the books that I vividly remember doing a whole thing crying about. And if you think back to the beginning of this video where I said I wasn't a book crier, as you watch this video, obviously you can tell that I've completely changed, because I didn't cry at The Fault in Our Stars. I didn't cry at anything until Champion. And obviously I've come a long way, because now I cry at a lot of books. I'm still not really, still don't really cry at like every book I read, but when I have to say goodbye to characters is most of the time when I have to cry, and it's very, very sad, and you know, all these different things, that all the emotions that are happening. So yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Give it a like if you did, and comment down below anything you want to talk about, and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. I would really appreciate it. So yeah, goodbye, and I will see you guys in my next video. Goodbye.